Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome to episode 78 of Shrigleytube TV. I want to start by wishing you all a happy new year. Hope it's kind to you and we all have a good year. Now, regarding the messages last week, absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyed reading all the messages. Some really good constructive points put across there, and I've received many email and phone calls and things like that about the rolling road. People want to pass on their advice, so that's great. I've got a really good idea now on which way I want to go. I will keep on researching it before I make any jumps, but yeah, brilliant. Thanks for everyone that made the effort to come forward there and share their experiences or give me advice basically on what to do. So that's brilliant. Now this week it's been a bit of a varied week. There's been a bit of messing about going on. Bergerac's got his new Stratos, so we had a little bit of a chat about that, and I had some scrap in the yard that needed shifting, so we had a bit of a do with that. But I have gone on with the offset block engine. It is looking something like, so yeah, not ran, but this period between Christmas and New Year, I wanted to get a few of my own things sorted out before I drop back onto work on Monday, which we'll get on with Glenn's 1200. So yeah, it's all good. Hope you enjoy what you see, and hopefully I'll see you again next Sunday at 7. Bye for now. Okay, we're outside the workshop, and I was going to get the Husky out ready for the New Year's Day classic car meet, but I think I'm going to go in my green Audi instead. Now this beauty here belongs to me, and it's been parked in one of my neighbour's parking spots. I bought it off him because he was going to send it to the scrapyard, and I just thought, you can't send that to the scrapyard. It's a lovely old 4-litre Jaguar. I think they call these maybe an x300. It's sort of it's later than the XJ40. It's a 1996. Now, just in case you didn't already know, I have one of these, or I have this one here, which is called an XJ40, and it's a lovely car. Honestly, these are great cars, these. This one's a manual version, and it's a 3.2. Now, I have been in a 4-litre automatic one, and the 4-litre engine is like a stonking lump. It's 4 valve per cylinder, and they go like a train. So I thought, when I saw this going to scrap, I thought, I know, we'll pull the engine out of this. We'll put the flywheel on from the other engine, the 3.2, and just slot it in. It can only be a day's work to pull the engine out and put it in. So it's not done many miles either, this, but I think the gearbox has got a problem, or something's got a problem with it. The reason why it's parked up, because it's not even rotten. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the engine out of this, and then we can get it to the scrapyard because it needs to go. And then obviously one day, when time allowing, we'll get stuck into the manual Jag. In summertime that'll be, when we've moved units, no doubt. Okay chaps, it was such a nice day. I was tidying up inside the workshop and I was getting quite a lot done, and I thought, you know what, we've got to make a decision on the lovely Granada Scorpio, what the plan is. Now, my friend Graham has very kindly agreed to put arches and sills on it, but I thought, you can always get a good idea of how good a car is when you wash it by hand. I don't know why, but it always reveals all the little bits that you hadn't thought about. So giving it a good wash, I've got to say it's pretty straight. It wants arches and sills, obviously, and the bumper's clipping on properly, some new tyres. I've been for a cruise up the road. I've got trade insurance, and I do have trade plates, although I didn't put them on to hand. But I thought I'd just go for a gentle drive up the road, just 15 mile an hour job, make sure the gearbox works, etc. I've got to say it does drive really well. So I've given under the bonnet a steam as well to just have a look at the inner wings. It all looks remarkably good. And the engine, it's done 180,000 mile, typical Ford. It's an absolute peach. I've had a read about the engine. I did a bit of a Google. It is on a hydraulic tappet, so I think the cams or whatever are worn. We'll fire him up. But yeah, it does what it says on the tin. There's a few wiring issues, which I've got to sort out. I'd imagine it needs the fuse box drying out for a start, but sweet as a nut. So yeah, I think we'll go ahead and invest the £400 on new sills and arches. It's certainly, to have survived this long, I know it's got a few knocks and bangs, but I suspect that apart from being rusty, this was probably in quite good condition when it was parked up, indicating that the owners that had it probably had it for quite a long time. I haven't got a V5 for it at this stage, but yeah, it's interesting. What was really interesting was that the car wouldn't start for love nor money, so I put a jump wire from here I don't know if you can zoom in there. This is the jump wires, the crocodile click on the starter motor. That cable, this main bus cable here, has gone bad. So it just goes click, click, click if you try and start it, but obviously with the jumper on, it's fine. So we'll get a new cable for it. That's just a minor issue. The next thing to do, the next stage for this will be, possibly tomorrow, if we get time, if we get the Jag strips afternoon, is pull the full interior and carpet out of it, and then it can go off for welding, because there's no point giving Graham all the extra work of taking the interior out. Okay, we lost a bit of daylight out here, so I've had to abandon the Jag. Got him up in the air. We'll get the old stacker truck on it tomorrow and hoik the engine and box out as one, and then split them on the floor. Anyway, it's the offset bore engine. So a lot of reasons as to why it hasn't happened so far, mainly been busy with work. Now this is the new manifold that William has just made for me, and we've changed a few things. So as you can see, we've machined the head at a funny angle to basically to get a straight run. Look at that one. Put that in the port there. Now on an imp you normally can't see round the corner because the way the manifold, it sort of does this, but because we've machined this at an angle and remade the manifold, it's straight lined it effectively. So really excited to see how this head performs. I've got quite a bit of work to do on that. I've got to cut the seats, and I've got to cut the seats. It sounds really crazy this, but I've got my new spring, which is going to be able to cope with the lift of the new cam that I've had done, but there's not enough room for it at fitted length. Remember the other week we talked about the fitted length, which is a length when it's fitted in the engine with the valve spring on, so it's got a preload on it holding the valve shut before any lift comes into play. To get that fitted length, I need the valve to come this way about 1 millimetre. So I'm going to have to cut the seats and sink the valves into the head so that I can get the fitted length correct, so that when the cam pushes the valve spring down on full lift, it doesn't become coil bound. It's nearly there. 20th I would do it, but I'm going to do it 1 mil. So we've got a little bit. I don't like the valve spring being too coil bound on full lift. As we saw with the Cosworth YB engine, it can be detrimental to their lifespan. So we've got all that planned. Now this, I'll just give you a refresh in case you've forgotten. I'll put the time cover on so you can see what I've done, just to confuse the job a little bit. So, if he gets on his dowel there like that, you can see that what I've done is I've machined this side of the engine away and not this side. That side is, so that's where the machining finishes. And the reason I've done that is to if we just use my hand, so if we look, the top of the block is angled like a slope that way, and the liners are in on the smash. And also what you'll notice as well is the liner is hard over to this side and well away from this side. So you can see that's the original straight edge of the block, and we've machined so far down that everything's had to be you can't believe the amount of work that's gone into this. All the head bolt holes have got to be drilled at a new angle and then helicoiled. Liners have had to go in at an angle. Everything's been done on an angle, and I've done this just to get a learn, which I'll then share with you, but it's hard to explain exactly how it works. But if you read about offset bore, I think the easiest way of showing you is if I were to straighten the engine up so that the bore was actually straight, so the bore was now straight, what you'll see is the crankshaft is off to one side. And what that does, as the engine comes round in a clockwise direction, the rod angle obviously is at a funny angle because the liner is over to one side. But what it means is, as say at top dead centre the rod is totally straight in a normal engine, on my engine at top dead centre the rod is already cranked over at an angle like this because the line is over to one side, you see. And what that means is that when the burn pushes the piston down, the rod angle, because the crankshaft effectively is over here, the rod angle stays straighter as it pushes the crankshaft down. So normally we'd have a big angle, and this way we're going to have a short angle. So all of the energies are going to push, you know, the expanding gases are going to push the piston, hopefully, and more energy will be transferred into pushing the crankshaft down than into, when we've got like a big rod angle, what you get is you get like a twisting motion. Imagine the con rod, it's effectively trying to spin the con rod round in a circle. That's why we always get what we call like a side thrust on this side of the piston skirt, because the rod is trying to spin that way, so it all locks over. There's a lot of pressure being pushed down on the piston, you see. So the better the rod angle we can make it, the more energy we can transmit from being expansion of gases into rotary motion, pushing you closer to and faster towards the checkered flag. That's the theory anyway. So I've also done a few other bits on this that are a bit tricky. So it's obviously it's on the motorbike pistons. It's a no money job, there's no money in it, it's just purely experimental. So I've had to machine the cutouts for the pistons because originally the engine was a 16 valve. I've done one of these already, which was the 1120 that I went to Jersey in, as a stroked version, because just to explain now, when we roll this bottom half over, you'll see what I did was I got the crankshaft in the lathe, and it's all on the videos if you've not seen it before. This pin has gone from 41.25, which is 1 5/8 inches, to 36 millimeters, which is the diameter for these motorbike pistons and rods. So we have weakened the strength of the crankshaft considerably by reducing the pin diameter. However, the reciprocating mass of that piston and rod combination is around 500 grams, whereas my lightest piston and rod combination for the racing with the steel rod and the pot piston is about 720. So we've got a considerable loss in mass. So obviously the biggest stress an engine sees is it's got to change the direction of that piston and rod every rotation. So the less it weighs, the less the stress on the crankshaft. So I'm hoping the crank will survive. Now, obviously, all this is just in theory at the moment. We'll find out next week how it runs, if I get enough time to stick at it. If I can get a bit between my teeth, get Glenn's 1200 finished, and everything goes well on that, hopefully we should be getting a tune out of this later this week. I've got my new camshaft, which is a reprofiled cam. So you can see this is a big lift cam, and it's on a small base circle as well. So quite excited about that, because I want to run it all inside the standard cam carrier. That's my big thing. This is my new cam carrier. It's a totally standard 930 one. We'll be pinning this each end with bolts through to the head. But we'll go through all that together when it comes to it. But for the time being, I'm going to concentrate on, I've just noticed that the piston heights are all over the show. So we're going to sort the piston heights out, and then we'll get a bit of a dry build on, get the head on, sort out the valve clearance, piston to valve clearance, and sort out the fitted length. Get it all going round before we build it, and then we can have a bit of confidence when it goes together. New Year's Day to Classic Car Meet at Rixton. There's Gary, just seeing Gary. You might recognise this chap here. This is Jonathan. He's always commenting. How you doing, Jonathan? All right? Mate, what is this piece you've got here?
It's my Road Rally Beamer.
A Road Rally Beamer, but it looks like it's got the wrong engine in it.
It has, and the wrong gearbox as well.
So you're telling me it's got an Altezza IS200, is it?
Yeah.
I remember them.
Gearbox.
They did an RS200 Altezza.
Yeah.
Because Bob used to have a few of them.
Yeah.
His son used to race one in the touring cars.
Yeah.
But, so you got the 6-speed box, have you?
Yeah, 6-speed box. Volvo engine, b230, because it's good for road rallying. And it's geared really low. It's got a 5-1 diff in it as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
So it's like 80 mile an hour in 6 at 8,000. Yeah. But in a minute, Dougie, we're just looking at this man. So he's, for road rallying, he's got to keep it on a plenum with a single throttle body. That's a B23, is it?
Yeah,
Volvo.
B230.
And you've done it all yourself?
Yeah.
Wow, fair play to you, mate. And it's, how many rallies have you done in it?
40.
40 rallies?
Yeah, night rallies. So.
Brilliant, mate.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. We'll try and get a bit of a... It's got the spotlights on the front. It's a BMW compact. What was you saying about the brakes? There's supposed to be phenomenal brakes on it, aren't they?
Yeah, it's got Porsche 4-pots on it. It's got Motorsport ABS in it. So it just stops. You can stop on mud, you can stop on tarmac, it just stops the same. And you can turn as well. So, you know, when you come to that moment where you think, oh, I'm going off, you don't, you just turn, brake, and it's happy like, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Look at that. Look at that. That's a Mark IV Escort.
Yeah.
I've had a few of them. Oh, I love it. It's got RS Turbo S2 wheels on it as well.
Yeah, can we do ours?
We can't do ours because no one's even interested in my little old Audi. Look at him there. We went through the car wash last night because with all the rain we didn't want to bring the Husky because we couldn't have got out of our road. The flooding was right across our road. It was really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thanks for being on Shrigleytube, and I'll see you on Sunday night, pal. Good morning, YouTubers. It's Thursday morning. We've got a bit of frost. I can't get in the unit.
sometimes I just think it'd be easier to get an office job, you know, where I could maybe roll out of bed with my pyjama bottoms on and just put a shirt on and sit in front of a computer all day. But I'd probably get bored.
Good morning, gentlemen. I thought, well, it's a bit fresh this morning, a bit of frost around. Worst job first, let's get this to the scrapyard. My mate Jack very kindly rocked it on its side. I think because he wanted the catalysts off it, but it saves me getting underneath it. So he very kindly just pops it on its side. I'll just turn the camera around. So this is the Jag with the 4-litre engine in that I want for my my manual Jag over there, which is looking very cold. I drained the oil out of it first, obviously, because I thought it might make a bit of a mess. Got my grinder ready to go. Got my goggles on, so it's got these genuine catalysts, which I believe have got some value because Jack wants them off, so I'll get them off for him. And then we did a bit of research on the back end. We found this sticker. See that gold and red stripe there? Well, I thought that meant it had an LSD because it is actually an XJ Sport, this one. But actually, it's an open diff, which was quite disappointing. If it has a black cross through it, that means it's got the power lock diff, the Jaguar power lock. That would have been great to put in the manual one. Now, you know, I flippantly said, and it's not rotten either, this car. Well, it is rotten. I just hadn't realised until I got underneath it properly and looked. So it was only ever destined for the scrapyard anyway. I don't feel so bad now. But some of these parts, these silencers and stuff, on mine have all been patched. So we'll maybe take them off so that we've got a kit of bits for when we get it on the ramp in the new place next year. Oh, it's this year now, isn't it? Because we're in 2025 now. Yeah, later this year, and we'll try and do it. But we're just going to basically undo all the crossmember bolts, chop the prop off. I'll just grind for everything on proper scrapyard tackle. And then I'll get the engine crane, roll it back on its wheels, and get the engine crane, hoik the engine out, split the engine from the box, and just keep the engine. Right, we're 2 hours into the strip down, and it's ready to roll back on its feet again because I took the crossmember off so the gearbox can come out with the engine. Cut the prop shaft. There's nothing, the LSD wasn't fitted, it was just an open diff, so there's no point taking that apart. I took the rack off it just because it was so easy, it was like 4 bolts. So I've got the rack there just as a spare for mine in case, you know. And then also what I've done is whilst it's on its side, I took the opportunity to remove all these bell housing bolts because when it's on the floor, they're quite hard to get to. Obviously, when I pulled the engine and box out as one, I've just cut through all this Emery oil style. But what I have done is I have undone all these inside here. You've got a ring of bolts. Now, I don't know how familiar you are, but this is an automatic gearbox, not a manual with a clutch and a flywheel. It has something called a torque converter, and the torque converter's got a very delicate seal on it here. As you can see, this one's bone dry, it's never leaked. So what I've done is I've undone the torque converter from something called the flex plate, which sits on the end of the crankshaft. So when I split the engine and box on the floor, we'll leave the torque converter inside the gearbox so the seal never gets damaged. And then if I can find someone who wants a automatic gearbox for a Jaguar, I can sell it to them knowing that as long as they take care and put the gearbox on and bolt the torque converter to their flex plate, they'll never have a problem with the seal. Because I hate it when you see a gearbox for sale and they slid the torque converter off and it's on the floor next to it, because the seal, they're so delicate and they're a pain because it's got high pressure fluid going through it. So if it's not perfect, if it gets damaged when it slides off the end, they start to leak and you've got to take it all apart again and do it all again. But now what was interesting, they might think I'm absolutely crackers because I took the exhaust system off, but the one on my car is pretty rotten. Now I took the cats off for Jack, you know, the Bangor lad, and this car, the bloke said to me, it had a problem. He said he felt like a timing issue. He said it was running hot all the time and didn't have any power. Anyway, it looks like the catalyst, it has 2 stages of catalyst. There's some on the downpipe here. Can you see these ones? I think the insides of those is disintegrated and got stuck in the downpipe. So that could have been the reason why it wasn't breathing properly. So that could have been the demise of the car in the first place. You'd never have thought that, would you? Anyway, stop waffling, get it rolled over and get it to the scrapyard. Timber. Right, okay, we've finished playing scrap heap challenge outside now and come in next to my lovely heater, keeping me nice and warm. I've been multitasking, so I'm boring the block for Mark. That's the one that he's building himself. He meant to be building it on Christmas Day, but I'll let him down a bit. But he was quite cool with it. So hoping to get that sorted in the next week. But I'm just having a bit of a play with my own head, which was my plan for messing over Christmas. But I didn't have time for one reason or the other. So I just wanted to say, standard cam carrier, really. It's a cracking cam carrier. Really, really good design. Just light, low pressure die casting. I think it's made out of LM25. They never really wear, normally the buckets that wear for some reason. Anyway, this is a brand new one from a 930, so I've just relieved it just with the hurdy-gurdy because it's only for me, and I just need to do it quickly. So I've done a bit of relief on it for the big lift cam. This is quite hairy cam. It doesn't look that hairy because it's on a small base circle because it's been reground from an R23 cam. So that's been to Kent for a reprofile. Now, the beauty of making all this work, if this was on a full-size base circle, when I say base circle, I mean the diameter here, so the circle that's off lift. So on a standard imp, it's 23.8, which is about here, and this one's down at 21. Now, that is a bonus in some ways because what it does is it allows that, if you imagine the cam follower bucket, the big concern with running high lift cams is that the follower sticks out of the bottom of the hole far too much. Quite stiff in there. It sticks out the bottom far too much. But because we are on a smaller base circle, it actually starts further up. So say on at no lift, the cam follower sits there, and obviously when it's on a full-size base circle, it starts further down. So because it's starting further up, and obviously because this has been made out of an R23 camshaft, it doesn't poke out as much out the bottom on full lift because the issue is that they go all the way to the bottom and they tip, and then it breaks the carrier. Now, this will all work fine because I've actually done this before. If you remember, I did a video quite some time ago. I think it was called 10 laps till failure, where I prototyped a big lift cam in a carrier, and the end of the cam broke off. It wasn't really my fault. It was a bad cam where it had a repair in the thread in the end here, and I hadn't seen it. But anyway, never mind. That was that. So I'm talking about pinning the carrier now. This is what I talked about earlier on in this video, or in another video on this week's show. So if you can see, there's a cap head bolt in there now. And the issue is, obviously, you can see how it's fastened to the cylinder head by these 8 bolts here, or studs and nuts, should I say. So that leaves, if you imagine you've got the cam pushing down on the valve spring, it puts, and obviously the cam is held in here and here. It tries to flick up the ends of the cam carrier. And in really, really rare occasions, I've seen the end of the cam carrier split and then come away, and then the camshaft snaps. And normally it starts, believe it or not. One of the reasons why I've done this with the hurdy-gurdy just rough is because it's all nicely radiused. When people go in there with a proper cutter and it's got like a 90-degree corner, it puts a stress razor in the carrier, because these are good carriers, these. This won't be a problem, any of this, but for a customer, I'd do it in either a billet carrier or a sleeved carrier where we put bronze sleeves in them. But I've just spoke to Mr. Rodwell, well, a few months ago now, and my new carriers are going to be ready soon. So he's made new cam carriers for me to run a bigger bucket, etc. So they'll all be done out the CNC billet, which would be great. Now, this is the same as this, which is already in position. And what it does, I've drilled and tapped into the front of the head here, so that the oil way comes up here. If you look, it's got a hole through it. So the oil comes up the centre of the hole, and then this little recessed area here, there's a little channel that goes along underneath this cam carrier. Oh, I did actually take a cam carrier to show you. I just forgot. So this is another cam carrier. So you can see the high pressure oil way, it runs into this gallery and it lubricates each of the cam followers, and it also lubricates the middle and rear bearing. So that's why we have to have a hole in it. So that goes in there, and with this little shoulder here pinches on that spot face there, which holds the whole thing down, so it stops the end of the cam carrier from flipping up and breaking. So yeah, that's basically what that's all about. You can just see now the how much material we removed from the edge of the head. to get the angle right for the new inlet manifold, which I'm all very, very excited about. So I'm going to crack on, get this dry built and shimmed and get all my seat pressures correct, and then we'll turn our attentions to the block and hopefully we'll get it together. I don't think it's going to be this week. It's just not looking like I've got enough time, but certainly the week after we'll hopefully get a run out on a dyno. Bergerac, has your Christmas present arrived?
Well, do you mean the lurgy?
Oh, mate, stay back.
Exactly. Do you mean the lurgy?
Keep your bacteria to yourself. No,
I spent the last 4 days in bed.
in bed.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you what
Not
you were
for
doing.
the right reasons.
Not with the beautiful Sarah.
Sadly not. Well, she's suffered me for the past 4 days. Yeah.
She suffered you.
She's not got ill though, but I obviously have.
Bergerac's old school, for those that didn't already realise. He's only capable of making a jam sandwich. That's what he's told me.
What's wrong with that? A jam sandwich and a pack of Shrigleytubes a day.
Can you
That's all
operate
you
a
need.
kettle? Can you operate a kettle? Can you make a brew?
No, there isn't even a kettle in here.
I know. What do you do about
I do
drinks?
like a brew, but yeah.
Anyway, mate, Merry Christmas. I'm sorry you missed
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I had a fantastic Christmas, just in case you're going to
Really
ask me.
pleased to hear.
Yeah, been building Tamiya remote control cars with
Oh,
Russell and all
exciting.
sorts. Yeah, but looks like you've got yourself a kit car to build.
I certainly have.
So is this the new one?
This is the new one. Yeah.
Oh, mate, I take it.
They've actually helped me out a bit because they've done the body fit, which involves doing a bit of the pre-build already. So the wiring looms in and all of the aluminium panels and stuff will all be pre-fitted. So we're already ahead of the game. And they put some suspension on as well, even better. So it rolls.
It rolls. That's a lot easier. So you've got to take it all apart
So
now
I've got to take it all apart now.
and make it how you want it.
Start, yeah, exactly. But it's
Now, Bergerac, can I just point out a selling point? I think these cars are great, right? But every time I see yours with the window on the smash, you know, because is it on a pivot point or
it's on a
something?
pivot, yeah.
It's on a pivot.
Yeah, they're all like that. The originals were like that.
Well, I know what the originals are like that, but you know, it's 2025, mate.
Yeah, but if
can
you
you
think,
make
think about the shape of the door,
I think-
you can't get a window to go all the way down.
just engineer it? You'll make it work. There's loads of room in there.
Well, not if you want room for your arms, there's not.
When the window's down, you can put your arm out the window.
I see, right.
Look, trust me, mate. You'll sell.
Why don't we do that? We could make a Targa one as well, couldn't
No.
we?
Just make it so the window goes down properly and is in the concealment there. So just so it's correct.
Well,
it's
no,
just
but
not
it's
correct.
Not correct though, then, is it? It's not correct.
Well, some things need to be made correct, and that is they must have rushed that last bit. So you've got that's your instruction manual
That's
there.
it. That's the build manual.
Look at this. Where's the engine?
The engine isn't here at the moment.
Oh right, has it been rebuilt?
It is being rebuilt. Yeah.
Oh, no messing. Wonderful.
So we've got a bit of prep to do, and then it'll go to the paint shop to be painted.
What colour are we gonna go?
Probably the same. That's why it's green now. So I might just build the same car again. We'll see.
Really? That's a bit boring.
This time it's left-hand drive rather than right-hand drive.
Do you know what I think goes really well? Pink and metallic blue.
You tell you've been building Tamiya cars.
No. Have you not seen Frankie Wayman's tarmac car?
No.
Oh my God, mate, it's stunning. Absolutely stunning. I'm thinking of repainting the Hillman blue, pink and blue.
I
Yeah,
think you've got other priorities.
yeah, probably have, like moving units, getting away from you. Right, well that's.
Yeah, you'll have to come and have a look when I've got all the paddle work off.
I've got to say, mate, the chassis looks absolutely stunning. It's not a kit car as we know it, is it? It's a proper thing.
Yeah,
isn't
once
it?
I've got all the clams and everything off, you can come and have a look.
Yeah, I'll come back and have another. Are you going to put air conditioning in this one as well?
Yeah. Of course.
Excellent. Right.
Yeah,
You crack on. I'm going to go back to my unit because it's freezing down here.
It's lovely, isn't it? This is what we have to put up with in the north.
Mate, well, I'm in the
further
north.
than you.
By
By about 50 yards, yeah.
I told you, Bergerac, when I move units, you want to get into my unit.
I haven't got the money you have, though. That's the
Oh,
problem.
turn it in. Oh my God. It's obviously, yeah, right, okay. We'll over and out with that. Thanks for showing us around. Thursday, I've been busy on the offset bore engine. We'll talk about that in a second. I finished the head, that's all, got clearances, etc. All the new valve spring goes round. I've cut the seats, I've done this, I've done that. But I just wanted to introduce you to my new apprentice, who's on his school holidays, Mr. Russell Meister. How are we doing, Russell?
Good.
Are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah.
And how many cylinder heads have we stripped today?
About 9 or 10.
9 or 10, that's good going, that, mate. Well done. You'll make a fantastic engineer one day if you want to be, that is, you know.
Yeah.
Right, cool. Well, I'm just going to talk something about this engine now. This engine is the one we talked about the other day. It's got the offset liner, which basically makes the crankshaft offset. The liner's on an angle, so it puts the crankshaft over here rather than directly under the liners. And what that does is, as we talked earlier, it makes the conrod angles straighter when the piston is being pushed down. The conrod angles are actually worse when it's squashing, but that's not so important. But obviously when the gases are pushing the piston down, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of power going into it. So the straighter we can keep that rod, the more energy we'll get into the crankshaft. So we did talk about the big end pins being smaller. These are the 36mm big end pins that I turned on my offset jig that I've got in the lathe a few episodes ago, well, probably about 10 or 15 episodes ago. And then I sent it for grinding. You can see how offset the oil feed hole is because it's obviously shrunk in diameter. It was 41.25, which is 1 inch and 5/8, and it's now 36mm. So that it can run these little beauties. Look at that. There's nout to it, is there? That's out of a modern motorcycle. Interesting, it doesn't even run a little end bush. The piston pin just runs directly in the steel, which is amazing. I don't know how it all works, but it obviously works. Now these are washers that I've ground that hug the pin, and they are because this is what we call a piston guided engine. So the piston, how can I describe this? Oh, it's easy. Here's the rod. You can see the rod is too narrow for the big end pin, so we guide the rod with the piston. But to do that, we have to take up all the play in this gap. So when we've got one, here's a sample, you can see there's no lateral movement in the little end there. It can't move side to side because the washer is there. So that washer's nice and tight on there because obviously every time it changes direction, we don't want it shattering. We want it to be nice and tight and hug the big end, hug the little end pin. So that's how all that works. And obviously we will have reduced the strength of the crankshaft massively by machining so much material off it, but the new pistons and rods are very light. They're just over 500 grams as a combined weight. So hopefully the reduction in mass will give the crankshaft an easier time. We have already done one of these engines, but not as an offset. The 1120 I did, where I offset, well, that was another story, but I ended up, this is standard stroke, so this is 60.37, which makes 1040cc with a 74mm piston. The other one is a 65mm stroke because we shrunk the pin, but we also offset it as well to give it more stroke. But the liners on the 1120 are straight like a normal traditional imp, whereas this are offset. So this is where this one's all new territory. So here's the cam. I've recut the seats, and that moves the whole lot up, which gave me enough space to get the valve spring in, as we talked about earlier. So we've now got plenty of clearance at full lift, and all the valve clearances are done. So the head's on, that's good. This is an old head. This is actually, as you can see, it's incredibly thin. It's had all the chambers welded up all the way around so that the wheel strings are fully supported. This head was one of my very, very first race heads like 25 years ago, and then it had all sorts done to it, but it should function. This is actually the engine that was on the head that was on James's engine when the rod split the cap, and it got a right whack, and I welded it up again and put seats in it and all sorts. Anyway, hopefully early next week we'll get a tune out of this. It won't be running tomorrow, although I am in work, so I'll try and get it a bit further. But yeah, more than likely going to be Tuesday, Wednesday before this gets on the dyno and running. And also we've got Glens to tackle and source out next week, so we'll get that 1200 running properly with its ignition system on, and after we've checked all the cam timing and the valve clearances. Good morning, YouTubers. It's Saturday morning, and I've been busy on this little engine here, this little head. I said to myself, before I get stuck into my own job, which is what I've come in to do really, my little offset engine, I'll get Mark's head done because it needed skimming and wheel stringing. And I realised from a comment that was made by my mate Andy that I made a big mistake when I was doing my mathematics the other week, talking about wheel string depth. I'd managed to lose 10 thou somewhere, so we're going to have another go. I just thought I'd say good morning on screwing it round. Right. So This is Mark's cylinder head, and he's basically brought his, if you might remember him, he came along in his Jaguar a few weeks ago, or probably a couple of months ago now, and he dropped his engine off. So we put 1040 dry liners in it, and he's going to do a home build. He was meant to do it at Christmas, and obviously he opted for whatever I said. So I said, look, you're better off on a wheel string. I'm not too keen on the 1040 head gasket. It does seem to work okay for most people, but the wheel string is like fit and forget in theory. So what happened was, I talked about one of these the other day, and I said it's this many thou and this many thou, and I managed to get it all wrong. Don't know how. So we'll start again. This is like 92 thou thick, the wheel string, yeah? The groove is 55 thou deep, yeah? And then we have a paper gasket. So that wheel string, 90 thou, sat in there, 55 thou deep. So then we've got a paper gasket, which is 20 thou, that sits around the outside. So the head, when you tighten it down, it can only get within 20 thou of the block. So basically, we've got a compression of about 15 thou, or 15 to 17 thou, we'll say. So it's 55 in the groove, and then 20 around the outside. That takes us to 75 thou. 75 from 90, 15 thou pinch. So that face on the wheel string will deform to a tune of 15 thou. The wheel strings are slightly thicker, actually. They're 92, so it's about 17 thou a pinch. Now, I do change the depth of the groove depending on the application. If it's a wet liner block, I do tend to run a little bit more pinch. This is a dry liner block, so I don't pinch it as much. If it's never been welded and the customer doesn't want it welding, then we run less pinch again, because it's that bending moment of the head bolts pulling down either side of the block that splits them on this top face here. And obviously I've welded this one for Mark because I was in control of the job, so I said we'll weld it before we machine it. So basically what I've done, although I haven't videoed it because it's not rocket science, but I've just been busy. I just need to get jobs done. So I skim it, and then I do the wheel string grooves whilst the head is still bolted to the machine. And I know my head on this machine, it is cranked over ever so slightly this way, sorry. So this side of the cutter on a full diameter is about 3 thou deeper than that side. And that's so that when we're cutting, we don't get a back cut. So you don't want it to cut on both sides of the cutter. But when we come down to this diameter, it's literally a thou. So it's all within tolerance, basically. So by leaving the head on the machine, I can guarantee that everything's going to pinch evenly and work correctly. Now, I'll come over here. See, I'm still on with this. I've not got much further because it was last night when we finished, and with Russell that didn't get any further with any of this. But that basically is the pistons that are ready to go back in to the block, and we should have all of our piston heights correct. We'll get the head on, and we'll get the chain on, and hopefully, if all the combustion chambers measure the correct CCs, we can get the sump on early next week and get a tune out of it. Okay, YouTubers, Saturday is drawing to an end. I achieved this morning with Mark's engine, cut the seats, wheel stringed it, just drilled a few bits and bobs out that needed to be done. So that's all in the acid. We'll get that steamed off before end of play today. So Mark, if you're watching this, give us a call Monday and you can have a head over and pick your engine up. I've got to machine your crank yet though. Anyway, more importantly, sorry, no offense, Mark, this is what makes me tick. I do like my everyday work, but this is my offset bore engine. So we've talked about it in quite depth earlier on. I've just done a dry build on it. I put the head on with the wheel strings just so I can measure the compression ratio. Obviously you can see there's no paper gasket in there. And I put the new manifold on that Will made me. We've got the new super high lift cam in it with the new valve springs, and it all goes round. I've done a few laps. It's beautiful. So the compression ratio did work out a little bit lower than I wanted it to, mid 11s, but that's the compromise of using no money parts. As you remember, I made this out of a set of motorbike pistons and rods, which obviously had valve cutouts for 4 valves originally, and I put 2 dirty great big cutouts in a different position for my 2 valve head. So it was always going to be a struggle to get in the 13s with the compression ratio. But anyway, look, it is what it is. There's lots of new things on this engine that hopefully we're going to get a learn from. The only thing I'm annoyed about myself really is I've never done an engine with this angle inlet before. and I've never done an offset engine, and this cam hasn't actually run properly. So there's three things that I'm not gonna, if it does do well, I'm not gonna know which one's making it work. I'll take it all apart again and do one mod at a time, but we should get a general picture. On the other hand, of course, it could be absolutely pants and do nothing, but I'm pretty hopeful. I've just been getting a proper excited Andy stage. Let's just look at this inlet. This is the best inlet I've had. I'll get the torch. I'll put him on full lift, number 1 inlet. So can you see the back of the valve there? Well, that's not a bad run, that, is it, for an imp? Because normally what happens with an imp, I'll try and explain to you. With an imp, normally you've got your side draft carb, and then the inlet manifold goes up and then it goes down into the port. So you can't really see around the S-bend, but by doing what we've done with the head, we've managed to eliminate that. So we've got a pretty straight run. And as my clever mate William always tells me, he says air doesn't go like going around corners. So hopefully that straighter run will mean it'll produce some more horsepower. So I'm really excited about this, but I do have to just knock it on the head now and leave it, because this isn't like an official work week. But next week, when we come on Monday, we're going to have to get stuck right into all the booked in works. So this will have to go on the back burner. But I'm pleased that it's at a stage. We'll get a sump painted. I've got another day in it, and I'll have it something like, we've got to do some carbs for it, clean some carbs up, sort of dizzy out, just little bits like that, get a chain sorted. But obviously, come Monday, I want to get back onto the 1200 of Glenn's, the 5 bearing bottom end. I want to get that in the out tray. So we'll take the top of the engine apart together and have a look and see how everyone's getting on, and then we'll put a few more hours on it, and then we'll give it a real wind up on the dyno and see if we can get some good numbers out of it. I'm confident that there's a lot more to come from it, because as you remember, on the Tuesday before Christmas, I was just keen to get a tune out of it for Glenn, because he waited so patiently after I booked him in promising it'd be done in a week, and 2.5 weeks later it still wasn't running. Anyway, he's cool with all that. So well, over and out, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next Sunday at 7. Bye for now. Okay, it's last job of the day. Just got Mark's crankshaft in the lathe. We have been through this a million times. This is an imp crank with the scroll on the rear oil seal, so that scroll wipes the oil back into the engine block in a close diameter. But we're going to machine it off because we fitted this engine with a Mark Maynard rear oil seal conversion. So I'm just going to turn this off now, clocks it up, it's all ready to go, he says. So put it in gear. I know you like a bit of machine cutting. Do that. Oops. And what we'll do is wind it back, put another 20 thou cut on, and off we go again. The intermittent cutting that you could hear wasn't that it's offset. That is thou perfect to that, because it has to be, or the seal won't work. It's just because it's a scroll, so as it goes round it touches and it doesn't, you see. So yeah, brilliant. We'll get that done, get the crank polished, get it in the wash, and then that'll be Mark all ready to go on Monday. Okay, YouTubers, we had a bit of a cheeky half-hour left over after sorting Mark's engine out and making sure it's all ready for Monday. So I thought, me and William started doing a bit of offset machining the other day on the cranks. I thought I'll put it back in the jig and clock it up so that I'm ready to go on Monday morning, because I hate to say it, rumour has it that my crankshaft man, Ken the Crank, is retiring at the tender age of 80 years old. So I've got this in the jig, and I thought I'll show it you go around so you can see how it works. So all the offset in the crank pins is taken out by the jig, which leaves the big ends running true, so you can do 2 at a time. So at the moment we're doing cylinder number 3 and then number 2. I've clocked this up because it's been removed from the jig, so I know that that's true to the pegs, because it's really clever, this. If you haven't seen the other videos that have been done, if you look, you'll see all different sizes. So here we've got, zoom in again, 58. Now that was the old 850 size CC stroke for the 850 class. 60.4, that's standard imp. 63.8, that is 1100 cc on a 74mm bore. 65. That is 1120cc on a 74mm bore. And I think we've got some more 70mm, that's 1200cc on a 74. And 69.5, does that say? Yeah, that's 1150 on a 72.5. So Ian Carter made this jig many years ago, and I'm very lucky to be able to get my hands on it. And if you haven't seen the other video I made of it, what you'll realise as well is it's completely made out of Hillman Imp flywheels. So this is a flywheel, that's a flywheel. You can see the ridge on the back there. And this is a flywheel here as well. And that is a flywheel. And he machined it all up. Absolutely love it. I think it's a brilliant jig. So, as I was saying, with Ken obviously threatening to retire, I need to get a batch of these crankshaft machined and off to him for final grinding, because grinding a crankshaft, you know, anyone can grind a crank, but then Ken grinds a crank in a certain way. He understands about the radiuses in the corner, and he's just very good at what he does. So I'm going to try and get a batch into him before he retires. So we'll tackle this on Monday anyway.
Okay, YouTubers, congratulations. You've made it to the end of episode 78. Give yourself a pat on the back. Hope you enjoy what you've seen, and I look forward to seeing you all next Sunday at 7. Bye for now.